Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Sarah.
I'm Jamie.
And we recently moved from the UK to Perth, Australia. We've been here for about 4 months now. And today we're going to tell you about 7 of what we think are maybe some of the less glamorous or even the worst things about living in Perth, Australia.
This definitely needs a disclaimer.
Big disclaimer, lights, sirens. Please, please, please listen to this disclaimer before you make a comment. We love living here. We are so grateful to live here. I have, tens of videos showing you how much we love Australia. However, we also feel like it's our responsibility to give the full picture of what it's actually like to live here.
You've got to be realistic. It's not perfect anywhere. I'm not saying that I preferred it back in the UK. I think it is better here. I do prefer it. But let's be honest, nowhere's perfect. So let's be real about it and see, some of the things aren't so great about being here.
Exactly. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's just jump straight into it. So the first thing that we have struggled with living in Perth is the wind. So turns out after we've lived here, we've been told that WA, usually it stands for Western Australia, actually stands for windy always. And we've definitely felt the brunt of that. It started with our second week maybe. We tried to go on a camping trip up to kind of Jurians Bay, up to the Pinnacles up north. And as we were getting north, the wind was picking up. The chimney was being thrown all over the road. And I checked my phone and there's a marine wind warning and it was gusting like 50 kilometres an hour. And so we went to the Pinnacles. It was like there was an apocalypse. We tried to check out some camping spots. The tents are being blown left, right and centre, of which we only saw like 1 or 2 tents up anyway. And we were 2.5 hours north and we just thought, we can't do this. We had to come home. That was the most dramatic story of the wind. And I guess since then we've always been quite cautious. A lot of the kind of really pretty scenes and montages that I put in my videos have got music playing over them. But if I was to play the raw footage, it would sound a bit more like... So yeah, I think we just are a bit more aware now of, we used to just check whether it was raining or not and maybe the temperature when we were checking the weather, but now it's sort of like a temperature check and then a wind check to see what the wind speeds are doing.
I mean, just as a contrast, I guess we don't have to worry about the rain anymore. You can just look at the forecast and see sun. So now instead of checking for what the weather's going to be, you just have to check the wind.
Exactly. And it is better in the morning. So I think that's another reason why there's that early morning culture here, is the wind does seem to pick up later in the day. You've got what's called the Fremantle Doctor, that comes in kind of from the southwest and brings kind of cool winds in. So if you get out earlier in the day, you tend to be a lot safer and better off than if you go later. So that's number 1, the wind.
Number 2. It's the flies. Everyone who knows me is probably laughing a lot right now. I am not one that is known for dealing well with flying insects. Why'd you move to Australia then? Very good one. Yes. They're not so bad, but any flying insect that comes in the vicinity of me, I go into some sort of weird panic. I can't handle it. Get it away from me. I feel like they're trying to get into my eyes, into my ears, into my mouth, everywhere, and it just makes me hate being outside. So yeah, that has been some learning curve. I also remember, I think we were driving in towards, we were doing our very first bit of off-roading and some large cricket katydid thing lands on the window of the chimney that I think you have a clip of, and I completely freaked out.
I can't handle that. I can't stand that. Get me out. Take me home. Oh.
Hated it. So that, I'm very much getting used to that. But I will get used to it, I hope, eventually.
Yeah, and they were very much worse when we first got here in November. They have got less bad.
Yeah, it's a lot better
over the
now.
summer.
When we first went to Cottesloe in the mornings, like there are flies landing on you all the time.
Morning. So I've whipped out the GoPro for what is quickly becoming our morning routine. What time is it? Oh, I don't have my watch on.
It's like about 6:15.
Was there a fly? Yeah.
But now in the past month or two, there's been hardly any.
And then when we went to Lucky Bay, there were horseflies everywhere. So we were trying to sit out having breakfast, and the horseflies were. I actually don't mind the kind of what they called like blowflies.
I think they're blowflies. I mean, someone can correct us. The little ones that try and go in your eyes.
Yeah, I don't mind them. I know that they can't hurt me,
Yeah,
and I'm quite happy just letting them crawl in my ears.
Yeah, you do get used to it, but
Yeah.
a horsefly, you're going to know if a horsefly bites you. I mean, we had them, or they have them in the UK, and you know that you don't really want to be anywhere near them. So we're quite used to that. At least you don't have the Scottish midge here.
Or not many mosquitoes either.
Not many mosquitoes that I've seen yet. No.
Just the flies.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is the sharks. Now, we'd obviously done quite a lot of research before we moved out here, and there's a lot of chat around sharks, and I think I was hoping that we were going to land and people were going to be like, no worries, mate, sharks, you know, who cares? But I think they are a bigger deal than I was anticipating. So I think the thing that kind of puts it all in perspective is the amount of infrastructure around kind of keeping people's sharks safe. So especially during the busy times in the summer, we've got the shark spotting helicopter that goes up and down the beaches. There are lots of tagged sharks, so there are buoys just slightly offshore that alert the kind of system if one of the tagged sharks comes near the buoys. There are, I think, within the kind of Perth region, about 5 shark barriers. So those are kind of the nets and then there's the Shark Smart, is that what it's called? Shark Smart app, where kind of the public report sharks and you can kind of keep an eye on it. So all of that points towards, yes, you do have to keep your wits about you. I have been on Cottesloe Beach when the shark sighting helicopter has spotted something.
Please be advised that we have had a shark spotted, so would you please be able to evacuate the water? Thank you so much.
And so yeah, that kind of, I don't know, for me personally, just slightly puts a downer on getting in the sea for the rest of the day. So we are no experts, please do your own research. But what we do is, step 1 is we always try and find a beach that has one of the shark barriers. So we do love Cottesloe for that reason. If we can't find one of those, then we will make sure we are at a lifeguarded beach. And then I think that those 2 scenarios cover 99% of the swimming that we've done. And if we can't swim within a shark barrier at a lifeguarded beach, then we will make sure we are not the only people swimming. And then even if there are other people swimming, we will still probably only sort of wade and be sort of waist deep. We won't be, you know, way out of our depths. So that's kind of what we do.
And nothing's risk-free. You can accept your own level of risk.
Exactly.
And, you know, plenty of people swim outside barriers and do whatever they want and they're completely fine. It's not as if you go to the sea, you're going to get bitten by a shark. It's just something you have to be aware of. It's not something you should ignore.
Yeah, exactly. And it's things like we got to Lucky Bay, beautiful, most beautiful beach in the world or whatever. Stunning. And then right as you go onto the beach, there's a sign saying 4-metre great white shark spotted. I'm like, oh, when was that? Last week? No, literally 12 hours before we got there. 4-metre great white spotted at Lucky Bay. So yes, definitely something not to be taken lightly. There have been maybe 3 or 4 attacks since we've been here, and 1 fatality actually near Lucky Bay down in Esperance on Wharton's Beach. So yeah, something to take seriously. And means for a slightly less carefree experience at the beach.
Number 4 on the list, it's how thirsty I am. It's probably is all to do with the dry heat, but I've really noticed it. This is the bottle that I take to work with me. It's a 1.2 litre insulated Stanley cup. It's great. As an aside, I bought this in the UK thinking that it would be good to carry hot drinks in it, because I thought I'd want to take tea with me. I got here and really thought, actually, what I want all the time is an ice cold drink, and for that it's been really good. So I'll fill this up in the morning, I'll take it with me, 1.2 litres. I will drink that by about 10 AM, have to refill it immediately, and by the time I get home I would have drank 2.4 litres of water by the time I come home.
Plus coffees and other
Exactly,
things.
It's not including coffees and other things. And I'll get home and I'm still dehydrated. I just don't feel like it's fair. I feel like I need to be constantly drinking water to be hydrated. Yeah.
And what we found when we first landed was, and we've never lived somewhere hot. I mean, we moved from the northeast of Scotland. So yeah, real shock to the system. What we found was that we had to be like drinking something with a bit of electrolytes in them. So it started off being kind of coconut water. Sometimes that wouldn't hit the spot and we go to some other kind of sports drink. And that kind of started a search for, I guess, the ultimate thing that was going to help us feel less thirsty.
Because we don't necessarily always want a sports drink like Powerade, Gatorade. Yeah, they are great, but they're also like
Sugary.
Lots of
So we
calories.
wanted some electrolytes. So basically, long story short, we have found Hyro, which is a fantastic brand, a little startup. Steve and Taylor Chapman, they're great to kind of follow their journey. But they have created this electrolyte brand. Their electrolytes are low in sugar, they're sugar-free, but they're still quite natural, and they also contain a little bit of sodium, but not like huge amounts of sodium. So in terms of not being too salty, not being too sweet, and not being too kind of artificial, we have found them to be the absolute perfect brand of electrolytes. And I mean, I'm drinking them as soon as I get home from my cycle. You're drinking them. So yes, after we told Hyro about our experience of being dehydrated and how they have saved the day on a lot of fronts, they were kind enough to send us the lime and tropical flavours, which we are loving. Tropical, definitely number one. And then they were also kind enough to give me a discount code for you all, of course. I'll put all of this in the description or click the QR code. And yes, just go and try it out for yourself. As I say, we haven't found a better solution for our thirst, which has definitely been, as we say, one of the things that has been more challenging to come to terms with since moving to Australia.
Yeah, it's just not something we're used to.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe our bodies will acclimatise at some point.
I hope so.
But it's been 4 months and the thirst struggle is still very real.
I'm generally a sweaty person anyway, so it's to be expected.
Number 5 on the list is paying for healthcare. Now, we are not thoroughly researched in this area. We will actually be doing a bit more kind of content and information on this. But for now, we are struggling with having to pay for healthcare. So we've both got a bit going on. Again, we'll explain a bit more later. But we're just not used to having that extra layer of thought of how much is this going to cost? How much am I going to get back through Medicare?
I think there's been a couple of times, just as a little anecdote, I'm sure other people have done the same, or other immigrants coming from the NHS to here, of going to your GP appointment and then just walking straight out the building after you're finished and forgetting to pay.
Yeah, I literally got halfway home, had to turn around to go back and pay for a GP appointment. So you do get a portion of depends, you get bulk billing or kind of private billing. Our GP is a private billing place, so you do have to pay, and then you will get an instant rebate from Medicare, but it does not cover the full cost of the appointment. And appointment costs can range from anything, like actual cost to you can range from anything from like $100 to kind of down to $40, I think. Or you might find a bulk billing practice where you don't have to pay anything. And it's just this added layer of thought of how much does this cost? Jamie needed a minor procedure, and we found one place that was going to do it, and they were going to charge us $800 with a $400 rebate. And then we found somewhere down the road and they did bulk billing, so it wasn't going to cost us anything. So we just don't quite understand it yet.
Yeah.
And we are going to have to get our heads around it because, there is Medicare. And I think, so the UK is like a fully public health system, the NHS.
Which doesn't really work. I'll just go ahead and say that it is, at least this way, we are getting the help that we need in a reasonable time frame, whereas in the UK, unless you had private healthcare, you really would have struggled to get anything done in a reasonable time frame. Yeah,
we would phone the GP in the UK and they would say our books are only open for a month and we don't have any appointments within that month. So if it's not an emergency, you're going to have to call back another day and see if we've got any appointments opening. So then when the appointments do open, they're for a month's time. It's just crazy. Yeah. as we say, we're so glad we can get the help we need, and we're very fortunate that we can afford some degree of, paying for these things. We're just not used to it, and we're still really trying to get our heads around it. So in the UK, there's the NHS system, and then the other end of the extreme is the American system, which is fully private. And then Australia is what they would call like a hybrid, so it's kind of halfway between the two. And my understanding is that if you do have a concession, if you're from a low income or something like that, a low income family, or there are like a concession card that you can show, and then you don't have to deal with this, but we do. So that is something that we have had to struggle with a bit.
Number 6, it's housing prices. Lots of people have commented about this. Everyone knows the housing situation in Australia isn't exactly ideal, and Perth's no stranger to that. I think the biggest thing for me, looking at, because we're in a position now where we're thinking about sort of buying a house. We're obviously renting this apartment, so we're just sort of keeping our ears close to the ground into what's going on. And the amount of houses that go up without prices or go up with auctions is crazy. Apologies to any estate agents out there, but I just feel like the process of putting a house on the market with no price is just lazy. That's how I see it. I appreciate that that it's being done for a reason, that they'll get more money for it because people will offer more. I've been told that this is a layover from COVID, that people were bidding so much over asking price that it just became better to have no price at all. But I just don't appreciate it. I'd like to know how much the house is, and to just have to guess, because even when we've been to house viewings, people would ask the estate agent, "Oh, what's the ballpark figure?" And they said, "Well, I don't know. Only you know how much the house is worth." I just think that's a bit shady and just a bit lazy, and I don't like it. It makes me feel quite gross. But that's that.
And I think, just because, we're new to an area, we have we couldn't even give you a ballpark of what these houses are worth.
Yeah.
We just have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're not being... Well, we'll go into our kind of house hunting in more detail. But the other thing, that mortgage rate, so our mortgage rate in Aberdeen we got during COVID and was 1.4% fixed for 5 years. And we're now looking at an average of 6.1%, which is just going to be, our mortgage payments are going to be probably in the region of 10 times, maybe 8 times what we were paying in the UK. So that is, it's just going to completely change our lifestyle, basically. And
the interest rates in the UK have also gone up. I think that's...
Yes.
It's not as if we wouldn't have been paying a lot more also in the UK. I think that was, again, a COVID thing that we weren't paying very much. So it was going to come at one point or the other, maybe not to this degree, but it was going to go up at some point.
I will flash it up, but I think for the similar figure in the UK would be about 4.5% to the 6.1%. So that's going to be a big shock. And then there's the rental housing crisis, as everybody's saying. There's only a very small percentage of rentals actually available. But again, I think the real estate and the property management market could be doing a bit more to support this. We've got horror stories. My friend Sarah in Melbourne viewed something like 38 properties before she was accepted on one. And we've heard similar of friends in Perth. It wasn't personally our experience. I think we were just quite lucky in our situation that we landed the first one we applied for. But we have heard horror stories, and this is a big tip if you are looking at getting onto the rental market. You'll go to these viewings, there'll be 60 to 100 people there. And one of our friends had actually applied, so they say don't apply until you've viewed the property, and you can only apply if you've viewed the property. But the application portal was open before the viewing. So our friend put in an application before the house viewing, was accepted for that application, and then showed up at the viewing, as it says you have to 60 other people there, and she'd already been offered it. I just think that's criminal. And you go to these viewings and it's just almost creating this sense of, there's 100 people, there are 100 properties out there. There would be enough for every one of those people to just go to one property. But I think they're creating this atmosphere of, you'll go and you'll have, it'll be whatever, $600 a week. And the person next to you will say to you, oh, well, I'm going to be offering $700 a week. So that's what you should be doing in your application. So it's only in the property manager's interest to create this kind of hype and feeling of scarcity amongst the rental market. So the biggest tip I can give is apply, if you can, if the application portal is open, apply before the viewing, because you never know, they may accept you before the viewing. And just be patient. As I say, there are enough properties out there. There is just this kind of scarcity, fear mongering around it. So be patient, you'll get a flat eventually.
Yeah.
Another disclaimer on that, that has been our experience. None of our friends are homeless. Everybody's got properties eventually.
I appreciate some people do really struggle and are really struggling at the moment, and it is clearly not ideal, but
hopefully that was a quick tip and a bit of hope that you're not going to be left homeless if you move to Perth.
Yeah.
And number 7 on the list is that sometimes Perth just feels a bit sleepy. People say, oh, are you bored? We're definitely not bored. There is always something we can do. You're never far from a beach or an outdoor adventure, a jetty, you can go fishing. We are never ever bored in Perth. There is plenty to do, especially for families, I reckon. There seem to be, family stuff going on all over the place. I think what we've yet to find is kind of a thriving, vibrant nightlife, I guess.
Yeah, nighttime economy. Yeah. Well, I don't know, feel free to correct me, or anyone to correct me. I feel like it's slanted back a few hours than what I might be used to. I feel like I'm used to the party starting at 10 p.m. and it carries on going till 3 in the morning, and that's the nighttime life here. But I feel like it's a bit slanted a bit earlier.
Yeah, and I think when I was in Melbourne, for example, there's just something on every corner. There is just so much going on, you can just kind of stumble upon something, where here it takes a bit more research, I would say. And yes, we just haven't too successfully just sort of gone on a big adventurous night out, and it's just kind of happened spontaneously. But
I'm sure some of that is to do with the fact that we've only been here for 4 months, so the more time here, the better it will be to judge this sort of thing. But at least right now, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. And I guess the city of Perth does do quite a good job. We've had the Fringe, we've had Perth Festival, all the night markets that we've spoken about quite a lot. As I say, we've never felt bored. Sometimes we are just missing that. We live in, it's a big city. It's got 2 million people here. For other cities of a similar size, there would be more going on, but we quite like that. 99% of the time, we are more than okay with a slightly sleepier place to live.
Definitely.
So that concludes our 7, I don't even know what to call it, 7 worst things.
There's probably lots of asterisks around everywhere.
Yeah, the 7 worst things about living in Perth. We love it here. As we said, please don't come for us. We're not whinging poms. Please don't tell us to go back home. But yeah, let us know what you think. Maybe there was something on the list that you don't agree with, or that we've got completely wrong. We'd love to hear your opinion. As usual, I will be putting up a question box for us to continue chatting over on Instagram. My Instagram is @SarahBolsonTravel, and yes, we'll continue the conversation over there. So in the meantime, please subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video, really, really helps. Go and check out Hyro. Great company, great brand, and great electrolytes. And otherwise, we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.